Hey everybody, this is Matt and we're at Texas Toast Guitars. Thanks for watching. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about something that is near and dear to me, and that is our Challenger model and how it differs from the Fender Telecaster. So I have been working on this design for many years now, and I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about the history and show you some pictures and talk about some of the features of this guitar, and then talk about the differences between this and the Fender Telecaster, which I will also roll in some pictures of. And the reason I feel like I need to do this is because every time it comes up, people often talk to me about the how similar this is to a Fender Telecaster, and I scratch my head. I'm like, I see a couple similarities, but that's pretty much it. And then I see a lot more differences than I do similarities. Now, so I want to deep dive in, and I hope that you guys enjoy talking with me about my favorite guitar of all time. All right, so we have been making the Challenger guitar for almost a decade now. And I remember the day that I started to design this. I actually had a party in my shop, and I invited all my friends over, and I said, let's design the new guitar that we're going to make. And one of the reasons I wanted to do that was because I had been making a bunch of Les Pauls and a bunch of Tellies and a bunch of Strats and a bunch of, well, guitars that weren't my design. Guitars that I loved and I still love to this day. But they were counterfeit guitars, basically. You know, they were obviously not something that was my own design. So we wanted to come up with, well, I wanted to come up with my own unique model, and I invited a bunch of people over and kind of get their input. And we had a bunch of paper, and we drew a bunch of things out. And after everybody left, I looked at all the things that they had drawn. I didn't like any of them. That's not a slam to all of my friends. It's just that they are not guitar builders. They are guitar players, or they are people who think that certain shapes are cool. And I knew what I had in my head, and I thought, you know, I just want to make the guitar that I see in my brain, not design a guitar by committee. So what I came up with was the Challenger. I wanted something that was familiar in that it didn't look like something that was, you know, wacky and zany and had crazy lines, which I love some of those things too. But I wanted something that looked familiar, and I didn't want something that looked like a classic design with a feature that was just slightly different. You've all seen those, you know, like a Les Paul with a slightly different horn, or an offset thing with a. And I've made those guitars too, and I didn't want to make them anymore. So what we did is we all got together, and I threw everyone's drawings out, and I went back into my shop at the time, and it was just me, and I took some of my favorite things, and I kind of drew some stuff out, and I came up with what would become our Challenger design. Now, again, this gets compared to the Fender Telecaster a lot, but let's see what they look like together. All right, so this is our daily driver model, which is, as you guys know, just a basic our version of the Fender Telecaster. Now look at them together, and you see there are a handful of things that are the same, in that they are both guitars, they both have 6 strings, and they both have single cutaways. That's kind of where the similarities end. Now, I love the Fender Telecaster. In fact, it's one of my favorite guitar designs of all time, and I knew when I started to design the Challenger that I wanted to start with a single cutaway design. But again, look at the differences here. Look at the similarities. You'll see. So like the butt end on the Telecaster is quite a bit flatter. On the Challenger, it's a little rounder. The Telecaster is has a more symmetrical waist, whereas the Challenger has a little bit of an offset. You know, completely different bridge arrangement, completely different control arrangement, completely different pickups, on the standard stuff. Completely different scales and completely different headstocks. So for those of you who say that the Challenger is simply a Tele, I'm guessing you probably don't really know what a Telecaster is. But I digress. Okay. So after that first day in my shop where everybody came over, I worked very, very hard to come up with the design. And okay, I'm not going to lie to you guys. There was a lot of design cues from other guitars. For example, this lower cutaway here is much more like a Gibson Les Paul double cutaway than it is a Fender Telecaster. The butt, of course, is quite a bit rounder. I also wanted a slightly deeper waist section so the guitar sits on your leg and balances very nicely. But I didn't like to have this same cutaway down here up here. It just didn't look right to me. So I thought, well, why not have like a little bit of a slight variation there? And it's got a little bit of an offset, a tiny offset. I wanted to go with 24 3/4 scale. However, there are some Challengers floating around out there with 24 5/8 scale. And there's if you have ordered one of the new Challenger X's or you got a really old Challenger, it is possible that you have one with a Fender style neck, and that would be 25.5 scale. There might even be a 25 one floating around out there somewhere. In fact, I think one of our double necks that we did has two 25 scale necks. But let's talk a little bit about some of the things that we came up with and some of the things that are some features of this particular guitar. So as of right now, the standard Challenger model is a flat top guitar. It has a mahogany back and a mahogany neck, and it is semi-hollow, which means that there's a chunk of the back that is hollowed out on the treble side and a space that's hollowed out on the bass side. There is a center section of mahogany left intact for the pickups and the bridge and everything to be mounted on. But you can see, and maybe you can see, you can actually see up in there, this is all hollowed out in here, and it makes for a super lightweight guitar. One of the things that Chris and I talked about way back in the old days was if someone picks up the guitar and says nothing, that's okay. If someone picks up the guitar and says, ugh, heavy, that's bad. If someone picks up the guitar and goes, ooh, nice and light, bingo, that's what we want. That's a happy meal for us. So anyway, so the standard model Challenger is a semi-hollow mahogany back and with a maple top. We have mahogany necks is kind of a standard feature for us, and the standard fretboard wood is black poison wood. Now, some of you might know this, but black poison wood is also known as Chechen. But if you have the opportunity to call something black poison wood, why wouldn't you? Let's see, the Challenger, as it comes, the standard model has a 7-degree headstock. Now, let's talk a little bit about the 7-degree headstock for a while. When we first came up with this, we wanted to use 8-quarter lumber. That's how hardwood is sold. It's sold in thickness in quarters. So 1/4 inch would be about 1/4 of an inch thick. 4 quarters would be an inch. 8-quarter would be about 2 inches. So we looked at a piece of 8-quarter vertically oriented wood that we wanted to use for necks, and we decided that with this headstock shape, we can do 7 degrees. Well, come to find out, some of my all-time favorite guitar designers have also used 7-degree in the past. Dan Armstrong, most notably, used a 7-degree headstock on his clear lucite guitar, and that's one of my favorite guitars of all time. So we went with the 7-degree headstock, not because we're so smart, but because something that guys who are guitar builders that I try to emulate had already come up with 60 years prior. But anyway, so 7-degree headstock. The nice thing about having a 7-degree headstock is, of course, there's not very much angle to it. So it doesn't have the tendency to break and snap. As a matter of fact, on our new standard models, you can lay the back down on a table and the headstock won't touch. So that's a cool thing. We also wanted to go with a volute. Now, we don't put volutes on everything, but we feel that the volute is the ideal solution for this transition from where the headstock or where the neck stops being a neck and starts being a headstock. You'll notice on guitars like Gibson's where they have 14 and 17-degree headstocks, there are a number of reasons from a manufacturing standpoint that they do that. So one of them is the transition from where the neck stops being a neck and starts being a headstock. The headstock has to be a certain thickness. With no volute, you have a little dip right there, a little depression where that transition happens. The steeper the angle of the headstock and the less noticeable that is. And I am positive that that's one of the reasons that Gibson probably originally went with that kind of that much headstock angle. Now there are lots of reasons why Gibson went with that much angle, but I suspect that's one of a myriad of reasons that Gibson uses that. So you guys know what's going to happen in the comment section below. Everyone's going to be like, that's not why Gibson. Fine, I get it. Anyway, 7-degree angle is ideal. Volute is super cool. The new standard is, again, 24 3/4 scale, and we like to put maple binding on the neck because it matches the maple binding on the body, which I think is really excellent. It is not unheard of for you to get plastic binding or no binding on the Challenger models that we have. The Challenger is a very modular guitar, so you'll find double necks and different scales and different pickups and things. But like I say, we're talking mostly about the standard model. We'll get to some of the other ones here in a little bit. Already, you guys can probably see, if you know anything about musical instruments, particularly the Fender Telecaster, the neck, very, very different from a Telecaster. Mahogany neck with rosewood fretboard versus maple neck with maple or rosewood fretboard. 7-degree headstock angle with a volute versus flat. 8-quarter lumber versus 4 or 5-quarter lumber. 3 on a side headstock versus 6 on a side headstock, etc. So all of the Challenger standard models come with a 22 frets, which I feel is super cool because I'm kind of a Gibson guy at heart. My very first guitar was a Gibson, and I've always been a set neck Gibson kind of guy. But when you look at the Challenger, you might say, you know what, that looks like a Tele. If you do, you're wrong. If you say that looks kind of like a Gibson, well, you're kind of wrong there too, because the Challenger has way more influence from one of my favorite guitar companies of all time, and that's Hamer. Some of my favorite instruments of all time were made by Hamer. They had a little different headstock design, more angle, things like that. But if you look at the Challenger and you see Hamer, you're not wrong. So now that is not to say that mahogany and maple are the only woods that we offer the Challenger in. This is an all walnut one, and this one does have plastic binding. But it does feature the same headstock, same 3 on the side headstock, same volute, same 7-degree headstock angle. It's got a little piece of tape on the back of the neck here. 22 frets. This one is also hollowed, and it's cut for a trim. But very excellent, super cool guitar. This one has gloss finish on the top and a satin finish on the back, which I think might be one of my favorite finishes of all time. Actually, I really am super enamored by our 73 finish, which is this finish right here. In fact, no, yeah, this is actually my favorite finish. But if you want a glossy finish, I would advise you to go with just gloss on the top and leave the back satin because it feels so good. All right, I've been showing you guys a bunch of guitars that are in various stages of paint or all the way done. This guy is sealed up and ready for its 73 finish. I wanted to show you that the Challenger is available. Like I said, guitars are modular in general, and some guitars are more modular than others. The Challenger, I think, is particularly modular, meaning that we can do whatever pickups you want, whatever bridge you want. This one is getting our two P90s from our buddy Dylan at Dylan Pickups. This is getting our new Hipshot bridge that we try to use almost exclusively. We like the Hipshot hardtail, slightly taller than the standard one that they make for us, and we also use the Hipshot tremolo. Now we can do other bridges. We're going to get to that here in a little bit, but I wanted to show you that we do offer different pickup configurations. It's not unheard of to see two humbuckers, two P90s, a P90 and a humbucker. Some of the older ones might have had some single coil pickup options. We experimented with canting the front pickup a la the Mosrite. And this one is also mahogany with mahogany and a maple top, but you will notice this is has a carved top, which is super cool. And lots more carved tops coming at you very soon. We are going to start doing the Challenger carved top. It's just going to be like this. It's just going to be the carved top version of our standard guitar. So speaking of carved top versions of our standard guitar, this one is done in the 73 finish. We call it the 73 finish because one of my favorite movies is Winchester 73, and I thought that was cool. So if you watch this video and then 2 years down the line someone goes, well, what does 73 finish mean? You'll be able to say, Matt likes the movie Winchester 73. So again, this is our carved top version. Maple binding on the body and the fretboard, black poison wood fretboard, 7-degree headstock angle with a little volute, and yeah, super, super excellent. Oh, also all the way hollow, all the way through, except for that chunk down the middle, like I was saying. We wanted to put the switch up here where it is traditionally on the Les Paul guitar, so that's another place where you are not the same as, say, the Fender Telecaster. Again, I don't get it. How can you look at this and think it's this? But people do. So, all right, let's see. What else we got? Another nod to the Hamer is the 3 controls in a line here. Back in the 70s when Hamer started making their Hamer Special, lots of just three pickup or 3 potentiometers in a row down here, and I think that's look, this thing is so light I can just hold it with one hand. I could hold it out here like this for if you can't hold your guitar out like this for 30 seconds without fatigue, your guitar is too heavy. Anyway, so you notice the three controls there, a la Hamer. This one is cut for 2 humbuckers, and is also used with our Hipshot bridge that is string through. So you've got the string through ferrules in the back. There was a time when we were having our own bridge manufactured for us, and if you have one of those, you have something very, very special. It's the same height as the Tune-O-Matic, so we had to angle the necks, and it was really neat. Had Telecaster compensated saddles, very tall. It was, I think, almost 3/8 of an inch tall. The base plate, and it wasn't string through, but the ball ends hid in the back of the bridge, and it was pretty snazzy. However, we have discontinued using that bridge, and we shall not use it again. I've got a couple of them that I'm keeping just for me, but don't ask because they're not going on these guitars anymore. We are exclusively using the Hipshot bridges now on all of our standard models, and if you want one with a, except for the Saturday Night Special, which comes with a Tune-O-Matic and stoptail. Yeah, if you get, man, God, I love this guitar. If you get a standard or one of our carved tops, or even the Challenger X is available with the Hipshot bridge. So yeah, so that is a cool thing. All right, you can also get a Challenger in solid wood with P90s. If maybe you just want one P90, so you can get the single P90 version here. This again black poisonwood fretboard, mahogany back with mahogany neck, and this one does not have a maple top. And this one is a solid body too. So, so the solid body is an option. I like to do hollow stuff or semi-hollow. So if you wanted an all mahogany with no maple top, we could still, we could hack the top off and do the semi-hollow feature, and you could have an all mahogany version, but still have semi-hollow. That would be cool. This one has plastic binding on the fretboard because sometimes, I just put plastic binding on stuff, I guess. But also very, very excellent instrument. Like I said, one of the things that I love about this guitar is how nice it sits on your knee when you, because it's got a little more of a, the waist here is a little, it's cut out a little more than it is on the top. I remember when we first started making these, this distance here was just over the distance that would go through my thickness planer at the time. So I had to, I had to actually squish it down, and so we thinned this out to where it was just under 13 inches, which at the time was how wide my planer was. Since then, I've got a planer that will do considerably wider than that. So I guess we could go back to the original size, but I do I do love the way the Challenger is now. Like I said, I've been working on this guitar for many, many years, and I finally got it to where I really, really like it. So here is another one. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what we're doing down here as far as manufacturing. One of the things that we wanted to do, and we've modified the design a little bit throughout the years, we wanted to be able to get this through the tool. So like, for example, when I had the planer that was 13 inches, we modified the guitar to go through that. You will notice some of these other contours match sanding drums that we currently have. We even, when we built our deadhead sander, we used this neck as the basis for that, so we could do our Challenger necks on our deadhead sander without having to do very much modification and hold the tool differently, or hold the neck differently on the tool. But the Challenger, you can do obviously when it's flat, you can do sanding on the top and back when you're doing sanding the wood, sanding the sealer, etc. You can get all that with an orbital palm sander. You can also get all the way around, and you can even get into here with an orbital sander if you know the tricks and the techniques for doing so. But this area right here is something that causes a little bit of consternation with people. Anytime I look at a guitar, hold on, let me back up. Anytime any guitar builder picks up a guitar that they made or somebody else made, there's one area, I will go to my grave, guys, a stack of Bibles. Every guitar builder looks at one area. The area that I look at on an electric guitar is this transition here. Not this transition here, but this transition here. You'll hand me a guitar, I will guarantee you, here's what I'll do. I will look right here and see what it looks like. On the original Challengers, this cutaway met the neck clean. It didn't have this little extra, I'm gonna say shelf right here. And I never, ever, ever liked the way that looks. Now, you talk to, guitar builder, somebody else who you like, maybe theirs is, I don't know, the fretwork or the volute or the whatever it is. My thing is right here. If this looks bad, then I'm like, thumbs down. And when we first designed the Challenger, this transition here was something that I wasn't super happy about, but it was okay. And so when we added this little bit right here, I was like, thank God. So the reason is, what happens is where the guitar stops being a guitar and starts being a neck right here, I wanted it to look like that. Now, some people will say, well, you're eliminating the ability to get to these frets. Well, no, you're really not. Because you look at the way your hand goes, it's not like, oh my God, I need to get to the. No, you're right here, and the way your hand works isn't like this on the guitar. It's actually like this by the time you get up here. So this This little feature right here was one of the last design elements that we, modifications that we made, and I love it. It makes the guitar look like I wanted to, like I said, in my brain. So again, I don't know if you guys can see the difference, but I can. So again, flat, but you see how the transition on the heel there. Let's see if we can get them both in. See the difference? So the Tele has that's kind of one of the things about the Tele. When you're making it, you know, and that's why our Challenger model has this little thing right here. A couple other things I want to point out. Here's a different carved top. This one has scoops in the in where the controls will go, and I decided I wanted to see what that looked like. I think it's cool, but I like the other way. We do it better now. So this one is a one of a kind. But this is another carved top. I want to talk about the control cavities. When we first started doing this, we had this teardrop control cavity shape on the switch, and we had the reason we did that was so we could just put one screw there. Our original idea was that they would be magnets, and so we wanted a control cavity cover that fit snug in the pocket. We since discarded the whole magnet idea and went with the screw, and we went with one screw right here. Now that worked great, but we since added a little, I don't know if you can see it right there, this little, I don't want to say tit, but that's what that is. That's another spot for a control cavity screw to go. And we went with this very simple, very easy to install rectangle control cavity cover for this one. People have said to me in the past that control cavity cover is way too big. Well, to you, sir, I say, if you've ever had to do any wiring in a control cavity, you appreciate if you've got a little more room to get hands and tools and soldering irons and things like that in. Again, if you had a plate like the Fender Telecaster, you could wire everything on the plate and plop it into the hole. But the Challenger does not feature a plate like the Tele, because the Challenger isn't a Tele. Okay, all right. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this whole Challenger is exactly a Telecaster, because it's not. Okay. Anyway, so we've talked a little bit about that. Control cavities and why they look like they do. Okay, just for fun, I thought I would show you guys the Philip McKnight guitar. This is the this is the guitar we're building for Phil, and people have asked me, "Hey, what's up with the Phil McKnight guitar?" Well, here it is, and it's again another very lightweight instrument. Look, ma, no hands. So yeah, super lightweight guitar that I'm looking forward to eventually getting into the hands of Philip McKnight. Good friend of the shop. Like I said, I've said this many times, Philip McKnight has been a friend to Texas Toast Guitars when he did not have to be, thus making him a very excellent human being and a cool ally to have. So this will be going to Mr. McKnight in, I think it's Scottsdale, Arizona, sometime soon. It's actually ready for paint. The other one is back there, and that one will just sort of stay here in the shop with me because it's a little different. We have since standardized a lot of things, and we wanted Phil to get the the most up-to-date things that we are the most proud of. So this is for Phil McKnight going to his place soon. Here's the last one that I want to talk about. This is our TV yellow, again all the way solid. 2 P90s, kind of a classic nod to the Les Paul special in TV yellow. I want to talk about, we use Hipshot tuners on every single thing unless somebody specs something different. It is my belief that right now Hipshot is still tier 1 component manufacturer. If you, there are people who disagree with me. They say Hipshot's not tier 1. What about this guy's bridge? And I'm like, great. I'm sure that guy's bridge is super awesome. Let me see his tuners. Oh, he doesn't make tuners. Oh, okay. Let me see what he's got in gold. He doesn't make anything in gold. What about in black? He doesn't do that. It's only okay. If you are a bridge manufacturer, I salute you. If you are if you say your bridge is better than Hipshot, maybe it is. If you say that Hipshot isn't a tier 1 company and you are because you make a better bridge than Hipshot, well, my first question is going to be, I want to see your tuners. And Hipshot is, it's some of the best stuff you can get. I'm not saying there aren't other tier 1 manufacturers, but ladies and gentlemen, Hipshot is a tier 1 manufacturer. So anyway, yeah, so the Challenger model is a little different from the Telecaster model, once again. But of course, that doesn't mean that I don't like Teles, because I do, and I've made a bunch of Tele-style guitars. We call ours the Daily Driver. This one is our, this is the last recession special that we did. This is a limited run of 4 guitars. This one is still available. This one is not too dissimilar from the recession special. You can see it's basically a straight up Tele. This one is an Esquire with a Seymour Duncan 1/4 pounder in the bridge. Super awesome. We love Teles, guys, but the Tele is not the same as the Challenger. However, we do straddle the line from time to time. So we are working on a Telecaster that's got some Challenger appointments to it. This is essentially our Challenger model guitar shaped like a Telecaster. So it has our mahogany neck, 24 3/4 scale with our 3 on a side headstock. As you can see, it joins the body, and actually the neck goes into the pickup cavity. You can see it in there, just like it does on our Challenger guitar. This one is available with 2 humbuckers. Chris redesigned the Telecaster pickguard so that it would work with our neck, and has the humbucking pickup here. We went ahead and didn't go with the Tele bridge because we didn't want to use all Telecaster stuff, although we certainly could, and then we could put the regular Tele bridge in here in the way that meets the back of the pickguard. This one just has 2 humbuckers and a humbucker ring in the back, so that's a pretty cool thing. This also has a trem, which I'm sure you can get Teles with a trem. It has a forearm contour, just like you can get other Teles with, and as a Tele plate. So as soon as you start using Tele stuff, it looks really, really Telecaster-y, even if you do it on a Flying V. But this is our, this is a Daily Driver, I guess. Maybe this will be the new Daily Driver. I don't know. I love this. I love the 24 3/4 scale, and so if you like 24 3/4 scales and you want a Telecaster style guitar, well, here you go. Here it is. Or you might be one of those people who says that the Telecaster and the Challenger are identical in every way, which, for the 80th time, they are not. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video where we kind of deep dive into the Challenger and what makes it cool, and what we like about it, and why we did some of the things that we did, and some of the reasons that we chose some of the things that we chose. If you like this kind of stuff, give me the thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. If you appreciate the content that we create, you might want to think about joining us on YouTube or signing up on Patreon and kicking us $1 a month or whatever you want to do. It really helps us bring you cool content like this. And but if you can't do Patreon, please don't sweat it. There's no paywall for these videos. However, there is some exclusive Patreon content, but you can watch the regular videos here on YouTube or anywhere else. And totally free of charge. Just share the video and help us grow the channel that way. Help us grow our guitar company that way. So until next time, guys, this is Matt at Texas Toast reminding you that if you're so smart, start your own YouTube channel. That's what I did. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good weekend.